In the wide plains surrounding the small town of Haven, young Robert Gray stood by the edge of the wheat fields, his eyes fixed on the horizon where the sun dipped low, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose. The dry wind tugged at his worn jacket, carrying the scent of dust and new beginnings. Haven was barely more than a cluster of wooden buildings, but for Robert it was the entire world. Vast, untamed, and full of promise. The Gray family had arrived from distant lands the year before, leaving behind crowded streets and foreign tongues. Robert's father believed this place held the key to their future, a stretch of land where a farm could grow and prosper. Each day Robert helped tend to the soil, learning the rhythms of planting and harvesting, the language of growth in a land both harsh and generous. Among the neighbors was a girl named Isabelle, daughter of the blacksmith. Her hands were always restless, shaping metal or gathering wildflowers, and she spoke of stories her grandfather told about the rolling hills and the strength needed to tame them. Robert admired her spirit. She understood the land as much as anyone, and together they imagined what life in Haven could become. But the railroad's arrival was changing everything. The distant whistle, once a rare sound, now echoed more frequently, promising connection but also upheaval. Some welcomed the new tracks like a lifeline, others feared the loss of their solitude and the quiet they treasured. Robert watched the workers laying steel, the earth opening to swallow the iron, and wondered what fate awaited their small town. As the days shortened and the first frost crept over the fields, the Gray farm faced its first real test. The crops were thin, the winter looming ominously, and Robert felt the weight of responsibility pressing heavily on his shoulders. Together with Isabelle, he dreamed of a future where Haven might thrive, where the struggles of today would become the stories of tomorrow. Winter settled over Haven with a quiet but relentless grip. The frost had claimed much of the crops, leaving the Gray family's hopes hanging by a thread. Robert stood at the edge of the field one morning, the cold biting through his jacket, and thought about the long months ahead. The farm's future depended not just on the land, but on their ability to adapt and endure. One afternoon, word came that the railroad company planned to reroute the tracks, moving them closer to Haven, dangerously close to the Gray farm. The news stirred unease throughout the town. Some saw new opportunities for trade and growth, others feared it would bring outsiders who might overrun their way of life. Robert's father was torn between hope and dread, while Robert himself felt a strange mixture of determination and fear rising within him. Isabelle found Robert near the blacksmith's shop, pressing her hands together to keep warm. "We have to do something," she said quietly, her eyes bright with resolve. "If the railroad takes our land, we lose everything. But maybe if we show them how much this place means to us, they might listen." Together, they rallied neighbors and farmers, drafting petitions and speaking to the town council. Robert and Isabelle went to meet the railroad supervisors, explaining the consequences of moving the line so close to their homes and fields. The supervisors, faced with the persistence of the community and the challenges of nearby terrain, agreed to reconsider the route. As the tracks were eventually laid farther from Haven, the immediate threat to the farm passed, but the experience had changed Robert. He realized that survival required more than hard work on the soil. It needed courage, unity, and a willingness to face uncertainty head-on. By spring, the thaw brought life back to the land, and the Grays planted their seeds anew, stronger for the winter's trials. Robert and Isabelle stood together watching the first shoots break through the earth, knowing that the horizons ahead would hold more tests, but also more promise than they had ever dared imagine.